How many of you guys have heard the term, I'm sure you have, I'm going to bury it. I'm going to bury it. Like, you're speaking of emotions or feelings or experiences or things that have happened, even traumas, and we don't want to deal with them. We don't want to address them, so we bury them. And in a lot of ways, they become repressed memories. They don't creep up often. In fact, there may be a situation where it's drawn out into the open and you have to try to address it, but then oftentimes we can just kind of rebury it, and we think that when we bury it, it's no longer going to affect us in a specific way. And we know that those repressed things create challenges in our life. Like, they can create problems and difficulties, but we also need to realize that when we bury something, it has the potential to become a seed. When you bury a fruit seed or a vegetable seed, it grows into something. You know, our emotional life, our spiritual life, our heart, if you will, becomes soil that seeds are planted in. And we want to plant seeds of hope, seeds of peace, seeds that lead us to Christ and become greater people that respond to the truth and make a difference in the world. But when we bury trauma, when we bury difficulties, when we bury issues, it doesn't mean that it's gone. It actually has the potential to become a seed, to develop into a seed that takes root in our lives, that begin to spread roots out and breaks through the soil and begins to grow into a tree that develops bitter fruit, a tree that develops things that corrupt life, a tree that drops fruit and spoils so much around us. You can't just expect to bury things and then that they're not going to affect you. And not only do they affect you, not only do they create problems in your life, but they actually develop into more things. You see what I'm saying? Like when a plant, when seeds are buried and a plant is born, you know, it grows. It grows and grows and grows. I mean, provided you give it the right sunlight and the right water and you care for it appropriately. Well, in a contrast, a scary contrast, when we bury seeds or we bury moments in our life that are bitter and overwhelming and problematic and traumatic, it actually begins to produce fruit in our life. It not just lays dormant there. It actually begins to develop into something. It's this thing that it could create whole orchards of pain. It could create whole forests of suffering, because that tree will grow into something, and then it will drop seeds, and then those seeds will take root and grow into something else, and those seeds will drop root. And then next thing you know, we've developed a garden of pain. We've developed a garden of suffering. We've developed a garden in our lives that produce awful things. Awful things that corrupt us, awful things that corrupt everybody around us, awful things that propagates pain. I'm telling you right now, you can't do that. You've got to unearth that stuff. You got to begin to address that stuff. You got to pull that stuff out. You got to pray and ask God to give you the strength and the courage to say, okay, this repressed issue, if I bury it deep enough in my heart, I'm not going to forget it. It's not going to go away. And not only that, it's not going to just creep out every once in a while. It has the potential to become a seed that grows and develops, and in negativity and bitterness is nurtured into these forests and orchards and gardens of pain and suffering and awful things. So today, as hard as it is, approach it. Today, as hard as it is, go after it. Today, as hard as it is, you've got to run towards issues and say, okay, I'm going to unearth this, because if I don't unearth this, I am going to suddenly, at some point in my life, without realizing it, be in a place of greater pain and greater suffering because this one thing or this couple of things that I repressed became whole forests of pain and suffering that are dark, that the sun does not come shining through. Guys, I love you enough to tell you that. I love you enough to tell you that I've experienced that in my own life. I love you enough. Jesus wants to give you the help that you need to let things go, to find forgiveness, to find peace, to find security in Him. So with Him, in prayer, reading His Word, going to church, finding people in like circumstances, unearth it. You guys are awesome. I believe in you. Find freedom.